the defense. Jackal's going to be removed here, one that you see often inside of your ranked games, but one that we don't see too often inside of the ban phase here for professional play. In fact, this is going to be the first Jackal ban that we have in the entirety of the NAL for this stage. Nock, obviously, going to be our most banned operator as of right now, 68%, but you can bump that up just a little bit more with that one sliding through. DarkZero is going to cap off their bans with their defensive one. It's going to be Kaid. We saw that in our last one. Kaid's very influential over things like those hatches, but we did have to notate about the importance of impact EMPs and how they can circumvent Kaid entirely. So be paying attention to that later on in Oregon as we get them down the line, but obviously for this one, not going to be too big of a deal. Azami is going to be the one that wraps this up with a bow. She's the most banned defender currently in NA as well at a 74% ban rate, John. My goodness.
Still finding her to be quite too useful on most maps at this point. There's a few where she unfortunately just doesn't have the capability to set up as prominently as some of the others, so she's kind of being left into play there, but for the most part, when she has play capability, she is being banned out. As we saw earlier, Border was where our teams kind of allowed her to pass through, but otherwise we did see her get banned on the previous matchup in this one as well.
Most insane thing about that stat is the fact that when she's available, she's played almost all of the time. There is a singular percentage that separates her from 100% pick ban rate. So pretty incredible stuff, but we all know just how solid of an op that is at the end of the day. And that's why she'll be banned out from TSM here, who will immediately throw themselves into the basement and start setting things up for their very first defense.
As far as that defense is going to be concerned, not to see anything too crazy come out from it. Definitely wanting to be quite mobile in this defensive setup, though, as we're going to see, of course, Merc bringing out Trap Operator, having those stingers into play to see if we can potentially catch an over-eagerness from any of the members on DarkZero when they begin to work their way down, and see if those Thorn traps will work out to try and stab back the attack from DZ. As far as they're concerned, though, they're also going to be bringing a very intel-heavy setup to try and counter this out. You can see both Lion and Dokkaebi brought by the attacking side of this one to try and counter out the more aggressively lean positions that TSM have deployed towards here for the start of the game.
Now, some truly wild statistics walking into this one. For just Oregon alone, Oregon is actually our least defender-sided map at the current rate. And yes, that does include Border. Border is at a 49% defensive win rate. Oregon, 43% defensive win rate. That's something that we could not say even a couple of stages ago. So you can tell how much Oregon has changed, especially with attacker repick working its way in and making it so easy for these offenses to perfect their lineups before they even spawn into the map. Sky, speaking of which, will be right into the corner of the Showers hallway right now. Knows he's got one inside of security, but there's a lot more than that inside of this treasure trove.
Polo ready to take a challenge, but on the other side of it from DZ, just as if he had Eclipse, will succeed, though, in finding his first strike as he knocks down Achieved. Eliminates the Jaeger from contention on this round here. TSM now down a player. Bolo trying to make up the difference, but it seems like the general trend from the rest of the squad is to get back into the basement and keep players alive, which unfortunately Bolo will not be able to accomplish. He goes down to Skies once he establishes the cutoff from Kitchen, bringing us down to a 5v3 now.
And this is exactly why we were worried about DarkZero being able to get control of offense first. They're very good at clearing maps and making sure that their crosses are held. TSM didn't lose one, but two people on that mid-floor roam. That's not something that we saw at all in our last Oregon game, John. And in fact, we've had 5 Oregon games this whole stage, and you and I have casted 4 of them, and we really haven't seen that solid of a clear when it comes to these roam games. Yeah, we've seen them get maybe one person, but then everybody else is able to make it back to sight and try and play for some of those later round moments. But now TSM, extremely worse for wear. They still have some utility to try and fend off DarkZero, but I mean, even for the likes of Snake, he has those impacts instead of that Nitro Cell, and he's dead to the world anyways. Skies will decimate him. Gasher playing close will take out Pamba, but NJZR has already made the move for Freezer Hallway. Canadian will take down the last member, and DarkZero make mincemeat out of TSM.
Final fight goes by a bit quickly, but thankfully the round was settled pretty much before this. There's still plenty for us to talk about. DZ with those opening 2 kills just having far too much of an advantage, not anywhere near of a potent enough defensive matrix set up by TSM with his remaining 3 players alive in the basement. There's just a matter of droning it out, figuring out the angles to attack from, and DZ snaps the jaw shut. Beautifully done. Playing it by the book here in round number 1, and we'll see how they proceed going into round 2 and how TSM will try to shake things up a little bit. They will not retry the basement hole. Going to be moving far away from that with how one-sided it was. They'll head upstairs instead.
Yeah, Bolo trying extremely hard there to try and get the refrag and equalize before he makes a transition back downstairs, but all that does is, you know, puts up the sirens for DarkZero. They now know somebody's inside of Split, and what do? They immediately hop into Kitchen because they know that rotation's there, and that Bolo's really the lone soul for TSM on the mid floor now. So especially for Skies, I mean, that's a situation that you're going to take every single time, and he gets it. He'll take down Bolo before he's able to make it to the hatch, and that's going to be that second big frag that makes their entry points onto the site so very easy for them. Now for TSM, though, they have to go back to the drawing board, and what's it going to be? They don't feel very confident in their downstairs defense, and well, I mean, why would they? The roam game not really working out, and unless they've got another strategy in the books, and they're probably going to want to try something else, so they're going to head upstairs, and I honestly really like the operator lineup that we've gone for here. No smoke in the lineup, but Achieve does have the Goyo here with those canisters, and I'm a big fan of what we've seen with Goyo in this recent year. Not only with the 1.5 getting added to the Vector, but also those gas canisters and how you can just slap them on the wall, and you have a makeshift useful utility for your anchor position players that you don't have to try and babysit. You can just slap it on a wall, forget it, and go do Vector Nitro Cell stuff on a 2-speed.
DarkZero continuing to proceed quite slowly here, as we oftentimes expect from them. Continuing to work out as far as their case is concerned, though. TSM positioned way back. It's going to be all the way up until Kitchen that DarkZero has to push into to finally meet a duel with some of the members on TSM. And obviously after the results of the last round, they're not going to be too keen on trying to swing into these fights aggressively for themselves. So holding it back, aiming to wait for a potential play to come in from DZ. They want them to make the mistakes, not the other way around here. And that's explaining why we have such a passive hold from TSM, despite the rather aggressive positioning in Kitchen.
Love the choice of the Nomad here for DarkZero as well. This is... They walk TSM back. They can place one of those air jabs as practically an obstacle that TSM will have to work around if they want access back to the room that they've been barred off from. But as you can see, they don't have any explosive utilities minus Achieve's Nitro Cell. And do you think that's going to be used to get rid of an air jab? Absolutely not, especially since he's all the way over inside of Armory. TSM, this has been such a solid round past that, though. They've been able to delay quite some time, but you always have to be worried when a timer starts working its way like this, and DarkZero happens to be the opposition. They thrive in a situation like this.
Sky's going to lose all that barricade sitting in front of him, but for good reason, too. Gasher actually able to sneak back one of those kills as well. Won't even see him get traded as that fight apparently going on another part of the map here. Down to a 4v4 now as TSM holds the line for the time being. That seems to have stemmed the time for DarkZero, but might be activating it yet again here with NJR's most recent pickup. Gasher is in this fight after all. Now that we finally get to see him, he's fallen back into the kids' dorms where, once again, DZ just going to be able to execute their way forward. Every single member of the squad except for Bolo. Now down on the ground. Bolo will attempt to clutch the 1v4, but already time will start to tick against him. And at the same time, that more than likely means DZ are going to go for the finishing swing in just a second. There it is, off the skeleton key from Canadian. As a solid 2-0 scoreline is put up on the board so far from DZ.
DarkZero forcing TSM into a corner and then overwhelming them with the sheer amount of execution utility they had at their disposal. No one had the means to be able to play around the air jabs from the Nomad. There's legitimately nothing they can do. They can try and play the door itself and hope that somebody walks into a cross that they can kill them from, but if they cross that threshold, they're now just a free kill for DarkZero. So no one on TSM is going to attempt to do that, and what it allows for DZ is for them to start working different key parts of the map like Armory upstairs. Skies gets right up main stairs. He gets some support from the window player. They get in, and a big kill happens there inside of Trophy. That's what you wanted to see go right for TSM. If you wanted to know how they kind of make that round murky for DarkZero, it's really in that initial engagement where we see that swing from Trophy, but it goes to the wayside, and DZ are able to snowball that into a big round.
TSM, we can see Pojaman already putting the brakes on this train as he needs to stop this out-of-control momentum that seems to be coming in the first 2 rounds from DarkZero. We'll see what type of input, how his input is going to change things up when we get back in towards round 3 in just a second here. It's going to be too much longer, folks, as we're unpausing now, and it's time to get back into it. Time to see what TSM will show us on what ultimately is going to be their second basement defense in just a second.
The kitty gloves are off. Snake's going to be on the Vigil, and Bolo is going to be on the Alibi. Now, some truly incredible stuff when it comes to this team and, what they've been doing throughout this stage. Not only are Bolo and Merc inside of the top 10, but do you want to know what the top player is for TSM, John? It's Snake at a 1.19.
Makes sense.
Not only that, he's the 3rd best player in the entirety of the NAL currently. I just want to remind you, this is this guy's rookie stage, let alone rookie year. This is his rookie stage. He's never played in the NAL prior to this. He's the current third best player in the entirety of the NAL by rating. That is not a small feat.
He's had quite a lights out stage so far. With just those stats that Stokes mentioned alone, his impact has been second to none here as far as the TSM contributions are concerned. Time to see what else he can do, though, on the outset of round number 3. Need to see something heroic from the entirety of TSM to bring them back from the brink. These have been two very, in my opinion, at least one-sided rounds going all the way towards DarkZero.
I don't know how heroic's going to help them. They play in the EUL, but I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, they might be able to play or take something out of Officer's book, I guess. He's had some successful runs with his squad. Nothing ending too great, but maybe in the future. We'll just have to see. As for TSM, I mean, their future's still in their hands. They have the ability to change their fate. Only down 2 rounds. The first logic bomb's going to go out, but there is so much more utility to back this up, John. I mean, practically one of the worst combos that you can ever experience as a defense in Rainbow Six Siege. The Lion Doke combo with some pretty fast moving operators past that can capitalize on a lot of different situations. But remember what we said about Snake? Well, he's going to be able to at least clean up 1, make it 2 as Pampazoo goes down. It'll be 1-1 in the kill and assist slot as he actually just cleaned up a downed member from DarkZero. But this clear has gone awry, and TSM have finally pulled the wolves over the eyes of DZ.
Much more confident showing from TSM this time as well. The aggressive stance not only working out, obviously, but really forcing back DarkZero into a corner where now it's them that really doesn't have a choice and doesn't really have a plan to move forward here. And any plan they do come up with is going to have some gaping holes in it, unfortunately, due to the fact that they're now down 2v5. Clips as well as Canadian, not even grouped together either. Achieve with a great bait peek there. Obviously having his teammate a little bit further back on the inside of Meeting takes some heat for that one, but it all works out and the player doesn't even end up going down either. 1 final kill is all that's needed. It's not going to be too troublesome. A flawless round from TSM off of the tactical pause and off of the rebound there to finally bring them into the fold now at 1-2.
Great stuff from Poge, but I still want to know what the digest is. That's all I'm asking for. When is our next digest? Great timeout call there from the coach that gifts TSM around. He resets the pace and puts TSM into a very solid defensive setup. They basically double down on their roam game that we saw inside of round 1, but this time much more influential crosses, as well as Snake being able to get away with a lot inside of Kitchen.
So give us just a sec here, folks. Looks like we have a tech pause. So I'm going to assume like a headset's not working or something like that. I haven't heard any comms in game, so we'll just wait to see as our admin team there, you can see, is already working on sorting it out. And I think it has been sorted out. So just a quick fix there, and we'll get ourselves back into the game. Nice and fast, folks. Just got to make sure DZ's ready to go, and then we will jump back into it, see if DZ can immediately rebound themselves, or if they've got a little bit more work to do to try to contend against this new aggressive showing we got out of TSM at the start of the last round.
Also, if you guys didn't notice, most of the teams are wearing pink jerseys, and you guessed it, it's October. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Make sure you guys are going to get checked, or make sure that well, everyone knows that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I mean, it's pretty hard to avoid with the amount of pink that we have in this month across everything, sports, esports, everything. I mean, but make sure you guys are going to do the proper things for yourself or your loved ones. You know, make sure everybody is right as rain and can continue living a fantastic life. And speaking of living, we're going to jump right back into the game that's now live here on the top floor for TSM. Bolo going to be shifting gears on over to the Oryx, something we've seen him run time and time again throughout history.
We do have an attacker repick for Canadian over towards the Ash, which will be kind of interesting to see if that one ends up coming true. And indeed, there it is, locked in now. So Canadian taking full command of this situation. He's going to take control over the Ash as well. Probably just declared a little bit more utility compared to his previous selection there. Obviously, are some valid reasons to see Ash coming back into it, especially with the meta shift that happened as of the most recent patch. Snake, however, once again, in prime position to frag out here right from the beginning of the round. You can see him rolling back a little bit deeper down Yellow Hallway as maybe he realized this is a little bit too much pressure to deal with that he was initially reckoning towards. Probably was waiting to see maybe 1 or 2 players, but I think he's got 3 potentially coming in to clear him out from DZ. So a little bit too adventurous to stick around here, although he's still looking for opportunities, don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, Snake is in the trenches. Well, I'll let you finish that, as you more than likely know what I was going to say. That's what all the cool kids now in Siege say, John. But for Snake, he's going to be able to at least back off from that situation and maintain his existence. There's a lot of pressure that could seep in from all different angles. Has to worry about the freezer hallway as well as the breach in his shower wall. But for DarkZero, they've got other means of being able to handle this situation, including Canadian, who's crept up and found a bolo, but we know how solid he is in a gunfight. He'll take down Canadian, and now Snake looking to push this even further for the defense.
Canadian down, of course. Rest of DarkZero still looking to frag back against this. TSM still stuck behind the locker. Snake specifically ready to frag out, but not ready for the next fight. Eclipse takes him down instead here. That'll be a just a 1-1 trade coming in from DarkZero to bring us down into a 4v4. Heavy cost some of the other members on TSM, though. Bolo specifically down to about 20 HP now as he tried to assist inside of this fight. And he still has to try and get himself out of the position inside of CCTV as well. Might have the hatch below him to rotate through. That's one piece of security he may be able to rely on here. But even there, we'll be very much out of the fight and we'll need a reposition later on. Retreating down through that hatch is not necessarily going to be optimal for him. Tries to take the fight against Panba. And Panba will win it, giving DZ back a little bit of control here, now putting us into a 4v3.
TSM does still have some solid denial pieces, but DarkZero have the man advantage and can obviously pressure this. Achieved. This is going to be a big peek here, but he loses it. He second guesses himself on the initial peek, and that gives just the allotted amount of time, John, for him to be discovered. Now it's going to give that information over to DZ and the kill. TSM have to try and figure this out with the 2v4 off of site. The only good news is that there's minimal time for DarkZero to get this done, but they practically have all the time in the world when you really consider how Siege usually plays out. Fortunately enough, though, Merc is hot to trot at the current moment. He'll take down another DZ member.
Merc gonna go for the aggressive play, and it works out beautifully. Gasher even catching the third player with the frost mat as well. Beautifully recovered by TSM. DarkZero had the advantage on initiation, but could not close down the aggressive stance from TSM.
DarkZero, who is usually so good at prepping for their executions, not aware that a frost is on the field, and that will ultimately be their demise. I mean, minus Merc really just taking them to the executioner's table. So now it's going to be TSM tying things up. They've bounced back since their tactical timeout. DarkZero haven't been able to hold a candle to this light. We'll see if they can get it done in round 5. It's going to be the Tertiary site. We're headed to Kitchen and Meeting to see what can be done.
First floor hold for TSM, and this is probably a site they're actually pretty fond of playing into, given the way that they played this game out so far. Definitely wanting a lot of early round contention, getting into the face of DarkZero, trying to mess with their overall attacking play style. And here on the first floor, that's exactly how you're generally going to try to hold back your opponents, so this should play pretty well into TSM's own game plan. It's up to DZ now to find hard counters to this and finally get themselves onto the site here to try to turn things around, as it's been all TSM the past few rounds here. DZ about to lose their edge on the attacking side and the lead along with it.
It's making for quite an interesting match that we have. You know, I'd say in a certain sense you and I have been punished over the last 2 days with the amount of Oregon that we've been forced to cast, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. I'd say today it's been a heck of a lot better, especially just the pacing and overall exchanges of utility and the strategy. I mean, really, there's been very solid games to be able to watch over and see exactly what these squads have going on. And this is going to be no different here in round 5. TSM really worried about what's going on around the showers and small tower area. They'll put Bolo in here this time. This is where we had Snake previously, and he was Candellaed out and ultimately executed by the likes of Eclipse. But as you can see, not nearly as many stuns, or Candellas rather, this time around. It'll just be the stuns for DarkZero and the likes of Eclipse and Canadian, but those are more than likely going to be focused into some burn points. But the good news for DZ is that they don't have to worry about that too much either, as TSM have access to none.
DarkZero taking things nice and slow as we would generally expect, already being able to open up the cafeteria wall to start moving themselves forward from that position. TSM has been restrained deeper into the site for the most part, with one exception being extended deeper out from the yellow hallway. So here Panba has creeped forward, has been able to clear things out on the inside of showers, so dealing with that usually extended position from TSM. Force them a little bit further back here. Now all focus is on the kitchen cross. See specifically one of their players, Snake, hard locked on that angle to try and support Gasher. So he'll have to be a little bit more mobile here, contending against that extra pressure. No real resistance to the actual hallway push at this point, though. Could be a good way for DarkZero to sneak in and crunch this one out, as the resistance here, very little at the moment.
Well, it looks like there's not, but Bolo's actually the resistance to this. He's going to play that long angle that he was playing from median inside of, I do believe, round 1, where he ended up getting smoked by Skies later on, but it holds Snake's door, and this makes it to where Snake can favor the west-hand side of this room. As long as he doesn't cross across these servers, then he's not really in any danger, unless obviously he's managing it himself like he's doing right there. Past that, though, TSM, they've done a very solid job of wasting time, but not only that, Canadian is almost dead to the world. Eclipse is. NGR's now down. It's up to Pambazoo as well as Skies, who are both trying to work their way through Z at the current moment. TSM awaiting their arrival. Cell players inside of server here. We'll see if that cross works out that Bo was holding on to earlier as they start to grace the door. Bo's not going to be holding it, but he finally will work his way back towards the mantle. They'll take him down. Canadian...
Not sure how that happened.
I'm not going to touch that one. I don't think I'm going to touch that one. DarkZero ended up losing the round. I
think that was...
Troy slipped.
I think that was like some weird turn of events or something like that. But Troy ends up technically going down to a self-death on fall. We just didn't really see it happen, and it was probably a moot point to the end of the round anyway. TSM, though, takes the lead now, up 3-2 as we head into the final round of the half. They can either lock this one in or even kill it. A 3-3 with DarkZero here. It all depends on how this last basement defense goes. The mirror is going to be brought out again here. Alongside that, DarkZero still playing heavily into the intel on this attack with the Lion and Dokkaebi combo, alongside the Sledge to open up the top-down angles. And the Hibana to try and take out some of the paneling, or rather the hatchwork that's going to be deployed here. Sky's just on utility duty, though, so he'll switch over to the IQ. They don't feel they can sneak those Rotera in efficiently enough to warrant bringing him at this point.
My life cannot go on until we know what happened to Troy Canadian Joslowski right there. That was unprecedented, because it happened so far off cam that I don't even think that you can generally get an aspect as to what actually happened. So, but we'll see if Twitter does its thing. I'm sure that our social media manager is rummaging through the VOD right now to try and find Canadian down. But either way, they still have the means to be able to tie things up here and make it a pretty interesting ball game when they get to the defensive half.
So away from that, all things will go quiet now with DarkZero spawned out on the field. We'll have to see what they look to make their first insertion and take their first challenge. Once again, against a roaming TSM. We've got at least the Mira as well as the Oryx being played by Snake out and about right now. The Mira trying to line up for a Nitro cell position. That'll be Merc. Once again, looking to do that. It'll be up to DZ to try to clear him out up here. If they want to try to go for that direct clear at all, really only Panba in the area here. He has some drone support coming in as well. The drone has missed the scramble that just went on over here by the stairs, so an aggressive swing will work out. Perfect timing for Merc, as they may have caught the fact the drone went right past both of them, and they might have been leaning into this doorway, so beautifully played out there. Snake, though, will not have as much luck towards the other side of the building, where NGR will trade him out.
Merc really took it to their town and then burned it down. The Lion is out. Snake will go to the wayside as well, but that's still good news for TSM. They're ahead when it comes to the actual utility game and just really what both of these teams can cause towards each other, what kind of harm they can produce. Lacking those EE1Ds is a really, really big deal, especially when it comes to this downstairs execution, Don, because there's only a certain amount of spots that you can sit, and it gets very congested. When you have those EE1Ds, it's pretty easy to predict, relatively speaking, where people are going to be positioned, even if you don't have that solid of information. So not having access to that is going to mean the world to DarkZero. The good news is, though, they still have Canadian on the Dokkaebi, so they still have some semblance of info game to run off of past the drones.
Nearly 2 minutes gone from the clock now. TSM has gone ultra passive ever since the events of the first floor unfolded nearly a minute and a half ago now. DZ at the same time has also not made any fairly aggressive moves towards this site just as of yet here, trying to position themselves towards construction and a few other pivotal positions for really committing to the inside of this one. Hatchwork, I don't believe, has necessarily been completed by the team yet either, so if they were going to try to open up E-Hatch, should it have remained closed, then the time for that unfortunately probably has passed away by quite a bit. We are going to see a few rotates moving around, specifically Canadian, trying to take up top position. It does look like they actually have that open now based on his positioning, so I might just miss that. Skies, though, striking first for DarkZero on this execute. Indeed, we'll see the Dokkaebi move down through the electrical hatch to move the team deeper into the site. So they're making progress indeed, but at the same time, TSM is holding it back and now fragging it back with Merc to find the first exchange.
Won't quiet until Merc pops off with the Vector again. A triple kill for him. He's gotten everybody in this round. Will finally be shut down by Eclipse. He needs a 1 versus 2 to try and tie things up here on their offensive side. Doesn't know the position of either of these players, trying to make it work with the bearing 9, but nobody home. He'll finally skimper off in towards Laundry, but TSM get it on the timer. It's a 4-2 split in favor of Team Solo Mid.
So a confident hold for TSM inside of the first half. There is able to take the large majority of these rounds, and now has an opportunity, like Stokes has mentioned. This is technically an attacker-sided map right now, so they can forge themselves forward here with just 3 more rounds and be able to shut this game out outright, proving quite a few of us on the desk, as well as both of us here on the casting desk, wrong and giving the matchup over to TSM outright.
I mean, we had it before the timeout happened.
I mean, to be fair, I was expecting a very close game, like going the full distance to overtime. To be fair, that could still very much happen.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely looking like TSM has their hand on the wheel at this point, for lack of a better phrasing.
Yeah, TSM's got their hand in the cookie jar, and DarkZero hasn't been doing a very bang-up job of catching them. I think that's the best way to put it, at least past that timeout.
DarkZero's asleep watching the TV right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not in the living room just like, those kids, those little rascals. So yeah.
They're too exhausted coming back from work.
Exactly. Canadians like, I've been doing this for 10 years. Oh, man. But it's time to clock in again, Troy. We can't go to sleep just yet. And in fact, I mean, the scoreboard's actually been lighting up in a certain sense for DarkZero. You can look to the likes of Skies especially, who's been having some pretty solid picks, some solid entries as well, like we just saw in that last round. Yeah, it gets shut down from Merc, but I mean, we saw just how skilled that man is in the later moments of that round as well. A huge quad kill for him, practically shutting down all of DarkZero single-handedly. So a little expected in a certain sense.
I've got TSM out and about. Time to see how their first attacking round goes, and more importantly, time to see what the pacing they try to approach this with. DarkZero has met the challenge from TSM. And this is going to be a dirty angle. I think
that's not an angle. That is this is like a coconut, bruh. Like, just climb under a random table in a dark spot and make sure that you don't get fined type beat. I love it. I really, really do. This is something that we don't see happen too often inside of a matchup like this. And in fact, actually, I believe NJR is going to skimper off. He might have been droned down or heard a drone in his area, and that's why he ended up making that move. But would have been quite interesting if we saw something come of that.
Skies gets the vision and gets the chance to correct as well. Knows it's going to be an even closer fight. Over to the shotgun. Bolo takes the challenge regardless of the factors playing into it. Achieved will be able to, of course, get a quick kill on Repel to trade that back out, bringing us back down into a 4v4, but still damage being done there. Bolo trying to be a little bit more adventurous than his operator could potentially challenge there, pays the price for it. And of course the team loses the free drone from the Yana.
A very aggressive front from him, especially given the circumstance of his health after that initial engagement. He pressures immediately to the back end, but I mean, a player like Skies is going to know that, and that's obviously what happened. He immediately rotates to the back end and abuses the M590 to the fullest. You don't really have to aim too much when you know somebody's got 5 HP and you have a shotgun. So makes it pretty straightforward at that point. Is going to be able to explode open the lobby hatch with a secondary hard breach here on Capitao, an operator that we don't get to see too often, but still has his influence in certain situations, like the ability to micro smoke off things like, you know, lines of sight or miras, or have some prevention when it comes to his fire arrows as well. And past that, he actually has access to a pretty solid AR and LMG, as well as that great secondary utility that they'll be using here for this round. If you notice, there's no other hard breachers here. It's actually just Gasher and Capitao, something that you would never hear anybody say just a year ago in Rainbow Six.
Gasher ready to execute, but at the same time, you can see DarkZero have angles to counter him out. The incendiary grenades have not come out, or the incendiary bolts rather have not come out just as if yet. He's gone for a micro smoke instead to try and block off the access point over towards Laundry there, and it has actually enveloped it quite nicely. The rest of the team, though, just doesn't have the confidence to move forward yet, as unfortunately it blocks off the exact point they want to push past. So it won't work out. There's the incendiary. That'll work out quite well here for TSM's efforts.
Oh, no.
Merc as well, catching Canadian just when he throws out a nitro. Another kill for Merc. He's really lighting it up today, as it's down to Panbit now in a 1v4, locked in the B corner as well. No way to play this out. Achieved immediately. Snapshots onto him when he finally swings. And another confident round will go into TSM's hands. Just 2 to go, and the match is theirs.
Wow. TSM. incredible stuff when it came to their execution and their dismantlement of the actual site setup. I mean, it's a pretty solid clear here, you know, for the Showers player. They got the nice supporting angle, but this is where the rubber hits the road here. Merc's timing, especially on his entry in from Laundry to catch Canadian, you know, single-handedly with that Nitro Cell in hand, that is a huge moment there. If microseconds go by, John, those two players in Laundry are completely dead, and that's a completely different round. So fantastic stuff there from Merc to continue to create opportunities for TSM, just opening up such a wide berth on site for them to be able to get a plant down, and not only that, but force the tactical time out from DarkZero. Blue, it's been 5 rounds in a row since DarkZero got one singular round.
It's not looking good at this point here for DZ. A great start to the game for them, but really has had a hard time keeping control of this ever since then. The tactical timeout already faded away as well, so the time for consideration has long passed. We're throwing them right back into the deep end here, where they'll once again have to show us a good defensive stance. They're going to move themselves upstairs, and no surprise in moving on from the site as well. Things have been way too one-sided towards TSM for a while, so they do not have confidence in that basement play going for it a second time at least. They're going to try to get the full rotation around, but the problem is, if they drop this site as well, they're not even necessarily going to get a chance to go for the full rotation, as at that point, you can either play the first floor, get the input there, and yeah, if you win it, you can take the tac timeout, or rather, no, you can't even do that because you just did it here. You can try to kind of bring yourself back and figure out what exactly to do on the second go-around, but ultimately from that point forward here, DarkZero is going to quickly run out of options to get themselves back into the game. TSM very much in control of this situation. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot DZ can do to stop it. We'll have to wait and see what they brought out just now from that tac boss.
Yeah, since the tac timeout from TSM, their lethality has gone through the roof. DarkZero has not been able to do a single thing about it. It has been a frag fest, and it's mostly been happening to the DarkZero camp. Skies is the only positive player, at least since the rehost. We'll have to get those full numbers at the tail end of the matchup. Canadian's going to be inside a T3 for Big Tower to start the round. Always a solid spot to try and delay some time, but obviously that means that TSM would have to play into that in order to do so. This is obviously a pretty hot spot when it comes to the clear up top. You're really trying to get control of Attic, so should obviously be the big spot that we're going to see TSM try to move into later on, but doesn't obviously necessarily have to be the first spot that they hit. They can go up towards Master, hit the main wall, and other things along those lines. Chief is going to be working his way across the kitchen floor here. See if he can potentially find himself in DarkZero opposition, but as we know, they're all occupying this mid and top floor, so see how it goes from there.
Neither team wants to make a mistake at this point. TSM obviously going to be proceeding forward, though, once they find that there's no resistance to their current hold. Bolo all the way up to the top of White. No one trying to jump out and challenge him when he goes for the full peek from the top of that staircase. Eclipse as well getting forced away. Meanwhile, Pamba just kind of suddenly takes the head off of Gasher, possibly on the top-down angle there. By the way, removes the Ying from play. Only one of those Candelas went out, so the other two are wasted at this point by TSM.
Yes, indeed. Canadian still in similar position to what we saw him start the round in. Still occupying Big Tower, but oh, that is so unbelievably unfortunate for Canadian. But fortunately enough, he stays alive, and Eclipse is there to pick up the pieces. Merc will go down. DarkZero have found their solid ground to stand on, and they're finally taking it to TSM. Achieve still with a nice cross there through the attic, but he's not going to get much done with it. A frag grenade out, this could be the kill that they've looked for so very long, and it finally will be. Canadian will go down here, but TSM still needs so much more.
See, Achieve going to go for a bit of a Hail Mary nade, and it nearly lines up with the movement upstairs. It may very well force Bolo into the open, though, to try to pick that one up. Panba will still succeed in finding the actual kill. It's down to just Snake and Achieved here in the 2v4. Try and bring this one back under the control of TSM, but not looking likely at this point. Far too much success in the 1v1s coming out from DZ. Snake certainly going to make a bout for it, though. Is down to one, finished off a second right there with the elimination of Panba. It has now put this into a 1v2. Time getting low, though. 15 seconds remain, and finally Skies will shut him down with one more shot for the Mark 14.
5-3. DarkZero able to stave off the penultimate point, and That's a good news as well for all you DarkZero fans at home. You do not want to see TSM hit that fateful marker of 6 rounds. It puts so much pressure on your squad, as any little error that happens inside of that round can mean the demise of the team overall. It can be a lost round, and obviously the last round of the game. You want to try and get as close on these score lines as possible for allowing that to happen. And DarkZero starting with the right foot forward. They're going to throw it down back into the basement again, though. This is a site that did not work out too well the last time around they tried to defend it.
Let's see if DarkZero can change up their own fate. Obviously having a route back over towards this one. I was mentioning it before. They would have eventually had to make a return to this one. Hopefully, again, with new strategies in mind, given the fact that they did take that tack pause 2 rounds back, and so we get some input from the coaching staff in-house here for DZ. For TSM, though, they're going to change up things in their own regard. They are going to re-add the Candelas into this one for Gasher, specifically ditching one of the hard breaches. Not going to necessarily be bringing a lot of hard breach to make up for that either, so more than likely going to have, there we go, the secondary just over there on Gasher to still be able to deal with the hatches, and aside from that, thankfully, they don't need a whole lot to be able to access the basement here. Maybe it would have been nice to have just the access to the X-Kairos pellet, something to take out a wall downstairs, but is absolutely not required in any extent.
Okay, Merc, you got me interested. What are we doing with this Thatcher? We've already seen some interesting things this stage happen with these EMPs, given the fact that their radius is a little buffed now. It takes a little while to charge them up, but they're much larger than the Impact EMPs. That's the difference between Thatcher and another EMP wielder. And we've actually seen them used in things like throwing them on the ground outside on the east side to be able to stop the ADS as an elbow, you know, stuff like that. So I'm excited to see how TSM wants to go about this, because obviously, really the only electronic utility that they have to deal with is going to be Jaeger as well as Wamai. They can turn the glasses off of Warden as well, but you know, we're usually seeing that utility leaning towards some executes or trying to get rid of some key pieces of utility for the defensive setup.
TSM working their way in, have taken some control leading up specifically to this hatch work here. Thankfully, DZ not playing out against that too much, so not going to see any contestation there. DZ just playing pretty much entirely into the turtle setup now. We have seen these played out quite a bit, though, today, and unfortunately, they haven't really been working out for the team on the defensive end of it. Maybe DarkZero can finally change up the fate of all these teams that have decided to sit nice and tight on the inside of the site. So far, generally, has not worked out too well for this defensive side of teams.
Yes, indeed. The other piece of secondary hard breach will go off in meaty, and that's going to open up Electric Hatch. TSM still has some presence around Big Tower as they'll start to apply the pressure where it's needed. Places like Big Tower and construction are going to be priorities for TSM. We might see a little drop in through the E-Box hatch, or maybe a late rotation over to Freezer. That one a little bit more ill-advised given the fact that the mirrors are in play. But as this timer starts to eat at TSM, it's going to force them to move forward, and it's exactly what I thought, John. We're getting rid of those ADSs inside of the corner, but the smoke's already out. The nade is as well, though, but Eclipse is going to rebuff the position. Nade out. Candela's actually Eclipse. I don't know if he got anything off. He did in Gasher. 2 big kills. Canadian takes him down. Snake still on the tower stairs. He has to win the fight, but he doesn't. Bolo will be able to get one. It somehow worked its way into a 2 versus 2. Bolo gets away from Pambazoo. Back and forth they go. PP shuts down one. Bolo will take him with a pistol. Oh my, what an action-packed 15 seconds. We still have 20 to go. It's Canadian, the man from the north, up against one of the best players that North America has ever produced in the likes of Bolo. BoloMerch.com, by the way. It's going to be a plant here for Bo. Does he stick it? Nitro Cell out. The play, and Canadian gets it. Oh my, the Nitro Cell fake might have been all he needed to force Bolo's hand. And DarkZero stay alive.
DarkZero staying alive by the skin of their teeth there, thanks to the pillar hold, obviously coming off of the execute itself. That stemmed the progression that TSM was making up until that point. NJR eventually dealt with, of course, but that's when we see the remaining elements on DarkZero activate, and of course, Canadian coming out with the big clutch there in the 1v1 to seal the deal. DarkZero now within 1 round's reach of TSM's scoreline. As well, going to be heading down to the first floor hold for this one to try and finally take control at a 5-5 scoreline.
I'm really disappointed if this is the case here. Hold on. Oh. Actually, I don't know what Bolo's website is for his merch. I even Googled it. I even Googled Bolo merch because I want to make sure I was right. Bo, I don't know where your merch is. I tried. He slipped me a 20 before this broadcast.
Probably on like TSM's website, no?
I checked TSM's website,
Okay.
and they said Bolo's stuff is empty. That's what the website said.
Maybe it's out of stock.
Yeah, that's actually a thing that could definitely have happened, you know. I heard Bolo is quite the celebrity on this thing called YouTube. You know what that is?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I only know of Baidu, personally. Anyone who gets that, you get 10 points.
I only watch things on Yahoo News.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's head back into this one on round number 10 now. TSM trying to save their current lead over DarkZero. But it's been tough to do so. DarkZero seeming to swing their way back into this one as of the past 2 rounds, and this is probably going to be the toughest hold we've seen yet from them. Or at least the toughest to break down as far as TSM is concerned. We've got elements, of course, deployed here in the site itself, but we've got a pretty big extension up to the 2nd floor as well. This is going to take the majority of TSM's time to clear out. We'll see how they attempt to do so. Here is Merc moving forward with very minimal respect to the security hold at this point, just heading right up towards the top. Already has a crunch
Respect is for the birds, John!
No one countering him out here whatsoever. Once again, NJR as well, not catching him, trying to move back down those stairs, out the window, so he just gets away with that kill scot-free.
Merc took a walk, and it was a leisurely stroll right into a kill of Canadian. Man who just clutched up the prior round will be swept under the rug, and TSM right back to their proper form. Gasher's going to begin breaking things down here, and I do believe the plant's going to start going down on the single panel. They don't have any hard breach to be able to break this open, so split is going to be priority for TSM to try and hold on to. There's also no verticality to play into that position, so they're going to have to hope that they can get this done on their frags. So far, not working out for them. It's going to be a tied ball game here. Skies will take down Achieved.
Solid hold still coming in so far from TSM. Only losing Achieved indeed so far throughout it. That's only to even things out. DarkZero at a loss for words about how to proceed. Just walking into the setup here as 2 more kills bleed out towards them. Skies and Pamba, though, change up the scope and even us back down into a 2v2. Pamba ready to reactivate, however. He knows there's going to be pressure coming in from the garage side, but doesn't have an easy way to counter at the flash as well, right on top of him, but he's able to negate most of the effects. Leaves a gap open for Skies to move in, but at the same time, there's a counter from Gasher. Leaves it down into the 1v2. Panva now alone here, trying to frag it out, but can't get the job done, and time is up. TSM takes control and pushes themselves up on a map point.
There is times where you just have to imbue yourself with confidence, John. There is times when your team needs you to make some big play, and you have to be able to be okay with that, be in the moment, and take some of those big moments and get those frags. That's what we see out of Merc as he quickly ascends White Stairs all off the back of one EE1D just to give DarkZero a little bit of pressure. They really don't know what's going to be happening with it. The big news is, though, is that it's a very loud noise that is global, John. It happens throughout the entire map. You hear this weird vibration. So it allows him to get all the way upstairs, and not only that, but take out one of the key components of that top floor defense. As you were saying, this defensive site is set up on top of itself. So when you lose one of those key players that's going to be playing angles to the floor or holding, you know, something like a White Stairs, that's going to be a huge loss for your squad. TSM exploit it to the max, and even in the dying moments there, some very solid positioning. Love the plant spot there. Kind of overlooked Gasher actually running Habana there, but TSM obviously didn't. They brought the proper hard breach for the situation and were able to get that single panel open, so they had so many different angles to be able to watch that. That was the only thing I was a little worried about there, but again, just an oversight from me. TSM 6-4 now, walking into what could be our last round here up against DarkZero.
Snake going to be bringing an interesting element into this one as well. See the Amaru be added in for him. That Gara Hook potentially going to be a surprise addition to the rest of the execute that TSM will bring forth to bear. To be fair, though, we have seen more and more of these operator brought to the table, and it's still pretty rare that we get these like all of a sudden jump-ins off the Gara Hook. It's usually a lot more restrained than that, and oftentimes it just ends up being a good gunner more than anything, and the utility is dispatched before it's actually properly used. So wait and see. As you can see, Snake already on the inside of the building. The important thing to note right now, considering Snake's potential play path, is he has that hatch there on the top left side of the screen. Keep in mind, of course, the Gara Hook can work on those hatches. There's a possibility for him to sneak directly into the site and really surprise DarkZero, especially with the current layout of players. No one's in that room right now.
No, they wouldn't, would they?
Yeah, no, I don't think he's going to do it.
Never do that.
That's too bold, personally.
I mean, Snake, slithering his way.
They got to wait until someone gets the top white at least so they can support it.
Striking when they least expect it. That doesn't sound like something a snake would ever do, John. I just can't believe it. In fact, I think a snake would be more bull-headed. They do have bull snakes, you know.
There we go.
I think he's going to fly into the window over here. And we might have an immediate answer by the man inside of Attic. Some stuns out or something. I don't even know exactly what Snake is tossing there, but finally he feels some confidence. Bolo's in. Snake's got a kill. And that's going to be a plant from Bo. Snake will finally go down to the Attic player, but Gasher somehow stayed alive. DarkZero have been cornered over towards the trophy side of the map. Bo with a grandstand here inside of Dorms, but it's actually Gasher to deal some serious damage. Back and forth they go. Skies, a single bullet's worth of HP, but you could say the same for Gasher. They're trying to spam through and find each other, but Skies, oh no, he can't hear Gasher as he moves his way through. Attic, such a controlled pace from him, and the moment was calling for so much action from Alex. Unfortunate circumstances befall DarkZero, but TSM, what a grandstand here on Oregon as they quickly show just how dominant they can be on both